Alright, what's going on YouTube? Today I'm going to talk about Law versus Yamato because this is a pretty popular topic, so I wanted to break it down and explain my thoughts on it. So I'm going to start off by just listing off all the damage Law and Yamato have taken and like their feats basically. So I'm going to start basically from the beginning of One Piece and I'm going to go over all the damage Law has taken. And then I'm going to go into his fight with Big Mom. And then for Yamato, I'm going to go over her fight with Kaido. I think she fought some other people, but they're kind of like negligible, so I'm not even going to count them. So yeah, let's get into it. All right, so starting off, we get Law, and he gets hit by a fire attack with Big Mom because him, Luffy, and Kid were playing chicken. So that's pretty dumb. Next up, he gets hit with Indra lightning attack. So this is the homing lightning that Big Mom has, where she basically controls where the strikes happen. So that's pretty broken. All right, so then we get Law using counter shock on Big Mom. So that was a pretty good attack, pretty effective. And then everyone besides Luffy gets together to knock Big Mom off the island, right? So that was another time where Law did, I don't think he did damage to Big Mom at this point, but he definitely did contribute the most to knocking her off the island. All right, now that she's gone, it becomes a 3v1 with Law, Zoro, and Luffy versus Kaido. So Law lands his injection shot, and even with a curtain defense, he gets swatted. And after Zoro's Ashura, Law tries to save Zoro, and then Kaido blitzes both of them at the same time, and Law is down for the count. All right, so then after this, Law gets downstairs, yada, yada, yada. So the fight starts off, and it's actually Kid who starts the fight off, and he slams Big Mom to the ground. And 2 chapters later, Law joins in the fight. All right, so as Kid is being hurt by Hawkins, if you guys remember, Hawkins is basically tying his Devil Fruit to Kid to make it harder for Killer to win the fight. So during the fight against Big Mom, Kid was getting hurt by Hawkins as well. All right, so Law attacks Big Mom from behind and it lands a counter shock, and then Prometheus counters back. And basically they're getting slammed right now because Kid is kind of incapable of fighting because he's getting hit by Hawkins. It's kind of challenging him to fight Big Mom, and by themselves, they can't really like challenge her. It's pretty obvious. Like as Law tries to fight by himself, he gets pretty much slammed. So Kid obviously being defenseless, Big Mom tries to go for Kid, and Law comes from behind, uses Kroom, and lands a shockwave on her inside. So this is when Law starts using his awakening for the first time. And as she turns around to face Law, we see Kid use a sign and he lands a punk crash on Big Mom. And basically they're bouncing attacks off of each other. So that's another thing that did happen during the 2v1 that I don't see a lot of people take into account. Law was not like the sole fighter in the fight. There is a huge advantage in being able to fight 2v1. All right, so Big Mom gets up from the attack and starts using lifespan energy and uses her own life force to power herself up. And then she proceeds to pummel them into the ground once again. And even with their awakenings, they get basically destroyed. And I'd also like to add that Big Mom never used Advanced Conqueror's Haki during the fight. Some people say it was off-screened. I don't think it would be off-screened because they showed it for page 1. I don't understand why it would be off-screened. Also, it's one of the major power-ups during the arc, so I don't understand why they would off-screen it. All right, so Big Mom turns her back once again, and Law uses another Kroom and is able to hit Big Mom to the ground. And then Kid uses Punk Coordinato to slam her into a wall. And as a side note, we can see here they already know they can't legitimately beat her. Their objective is to stop her from going to the roof. We then see that Law was able to break Big Mom's bones. And some people tried to give this credit to Kid, but Kid is not the one who broke her bones. She actually never even mentioned his name. She says Law is pretty dangerous, yada, 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 and she says nothing about Kid. So I just want to point that out. All right, so then Kid assigns Big Mom to a wall, and she later uses it as a shield to block another Punk Coordinato. All right, so then Law plants himself on top of Big Mom, and she starts punching him, and again shows how incompetent she is. If you look back to her fight with Kaido, and you look at that man page 1, it is clearly established she has Advanced Conqueror's Haki. But for these punches, she decides to use basic armament punches. I don't understand why, but that's what she chose to do. All right, so moving on, Law gets saved by Kid, and Kid uses a railgun to blast Big Mom, and she immediately calls his attack weak. Law then proceeds to use a perfect counter to Big Mom's homies with a soundless room, and Kid finally drops her off the island with another railgun. All right, so then Big Mom slams into some bombs and falls even further to her death, and even then, she wasn't really knocked out, so they didn't even manage to truly defeat her. But also for when it comes to Law's feats, we also have the Blackbeard thing. It's not really finished. We barely got to see any of it, so I'll talk about it briefly later in the video, but not really going to take it into much consideration, at least for now. All right, so now that Law's feats are out the way, let's look at Yamato's feats. All right, so chapter 1016, we see a base form Yamato clashing with a hybrid Kaido. So off the bat, even base form Yamato was extremely impressive in chapter. So if you enjoyed today's video, drop a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Like by themselves which I think by itself already proves she's stronger than Law, but I'm making this video just to try and convince people because I think it is pretty obvious she's stronger than Law. I think the fact that she's able to 1v1 Kaido to this extent is proof enough. Kaido hits Yamato once again, and she then gets up and uses Divine Glacial Feign and matches Kaido's Blower Breath. In chapter 1024, we see Kaido and Yamato sending attacks back and forth, and Yamato is able to block the attack easily, and then Kaido follows up with a close quarters attack. Yamato then acknowledges Kaido is actually trying to kill her. A lot of people say that Kaido held back on Yamato, but that hasn't been stated during the fight. This is still the same Kaido that just smacked Luffy off the island, and the same Kaido that beat Luffy, Zoro, and Law 3v1. It's the same Kaido, so yes, he's technically holding back, but he was holding back on everybody up until his fight with Luffy. Alright, so by the end of this chapter, Yamato matches Kaido's Thunder Balgua, the same attack that Kaido used to simultaneously knock out Zoro and Law. Then Yamato lands a headshot on Kaido and slams him into the ground, and we can see Kaido feeling the effects. Kaido swings another attack at Yamato and she blocks it, then proceeds to land another shot to Kaido's face. Kaido then proceeds to blitz her and is ready to absolutely kill her. The fight gets cut off, but when we get back, we see both Yamato and Kaido panting, and they are in their base forms, right? So obviously they actually are getting pretty exhausted fighting each other. To end this fight, Yamato lands another advanced Conqueror's Haki attack, and she gets an assist by Luffy. Alright, so now that we have their feats out of the way, let's compare the characters. Now the main argument for Law is basically higher attack power than Yamato, which isn't necessarily true. There are a lot of people who think Yamato is doing no damage to Kaido. Yamato is obviously not equal to Kaido, but let's look back at the 9 Scabbards. Even they were able to injure Kaido. Although it was not that much damage, Kaido still got hurt. Then we have the Supernova fight. All the Supernova besides Kid were doing internal damage to Kaido, and even Luffy admits his attacks were too shallow. So even with Rio, Kaido can be damaged, it's just going to be too shallow. Once Advanced Conqueror's Haki was unlocked, Kaido immediately acknowledges it as something only the strongest fighters in the world can achieve, which is pretty obvious because this is what is required to split the sky. So again, she is 100% doing damage to Kaido. That fact is undeniable. If Yamato was barely doing damage, it still wouldn't matter because Law and Kaido have very different durability. Their durability is not even comparable. So whatever she does to Kaido is like 100-fold on Law. It's just not even close. Now it's hard to compare Yamato's attack power to Law because they're fighting two different characters with two different fighting styles. Kaido is more durable than Big Mom and is actually a competent fighter. Law is fighting someone less durable and he has a partner in the fight, and he literally gets the opportunity to hit Big Mom off guard multiple times. And a lot of times is because she's just stupid. So to compare Law and Yamato, the best thing to do is just go through each category using the feats to decide who takes what category. All right, so when it comes to physical strength, this is a pretty obvious answer. I'm not going to waste too much time on this one. And speed, this one's a little bit of a tricky category because there's a couple things to take into account. Law can obviously teleport, so most people would just assume he's faster than Yamato, but that's not really true. Looking at Roof Piece, we could see Kaido blitzing Zoro and Law literally at the same time. And the funniest part about this is Kaido tells Law what he's about to do and he still gets blitzed. Whereas Yamato was able to clash with Kaido using the same exact attack and didn't get blitzed at all. So I think Law's teleportation is obviously faster than Yamato's movement speed. But when it comes to reaction speed and attack speed, it clearly goes to Yamato. And before people tell me that Law wasn't awakened yet, I'm already aware of that, but his teleportation doesn't increase in speed from an awakening because teleportation is already instantaneous. We also know for a fact that Kaido is faster than Big Mom, so Law going 2v1 against Big Mom doesn't even compare to Yamato 1v1ing Kaido. You would need more speed to 1v1 Kaido than to go 2v1 against Big Mom. So either way, it doesn't really stack up to begin with. He also can't teleport as much as he wants because it would waste too much stamina. So in terms of overall speed, it's definitely going to Yamato. She would probably even blitz him a couple times if I'm being 100% honest. Next up is durability and endurance. If we compare the endurance feats of Law to Yamato, it actually isn't even close because again, while Law is using his awakening in a 2v1 scenario, Big Mom was at one point able to knock out him and Kid at the same time. Yamato fought Kaido, never went down even once. Even after fighting Kaido, she had enough energy to go deal with the bombs. While Big Mom was falling off the island, she got caught in the crossfire of the bombs when Big Mom set him off, and she was still completely fine. Also, she has a mythical zone Devil Fruit that can create ice shields, so in terms of durability and endurance, it's still not really close. The problem with even comparing these categories is like Law's in a 2v1 scenario, whereas Yamato's 1v1ing someone stronger than Big Mom. And even then, the endurance feats still go to Yamato. Like, Law has the advantage and he still doesn't have better endurance feats. So no matter how you stack it, Yamato's endurance and durability is just better. All right, the next category would be Haki. So I think we can just go on to the next one. Let's talk about attack power. right? So if you compare the panels of Yamato attacking Kaido to Law attacking Big Mom, it obviously looks like Law's attacks are way more powerful. But as I explained before, Kaido is more durable than Big Mom to begin with, and the amount of blood shown can be misleading. The scabbards leave Kaido with a pool of blood, but we know that they aren't as strong as Luffy or Zoro by chapter 1010. And Luffy is able to put Kaido on his ass, and he himself says Rio was too shallow. So the amount of blood shown can lead people to believe misconceptions, but that one is debatable for me, so you can decide that for yourselves in the comments. Alright, so now is a good time to talk about Blackbeard. In chapter 1064, I think it is, Law was able to injure Blackbeard and clash evenly with him, and that is basically all we saw during the fight, so it's too early to decide anything for real, and we have already seen Yamato go 1v1 against someone who's more powerful than Blackbeard, so this feat wouldn't really boost Law to begin with. Blackbeard is also not more durable than Big Mom or Kaido, so him being injured by Law isn't really that surprising. If Law can injure Big Mom, he can pretty much injure anybody he wants, so that feat isn't really that impressive to begin with. Well, not that Law isn't strong, it's just that he's already at the point where he should be able to hurt anybody he wants. And obviously we have the clash, which is another thing Yamato has already done, so these feats wouldn't even put him above Yamato if I did take them into consideration, so we're gonna move on. Alright, so to end the video, I think Yamato is stronger overall than Law based on their feats during Wano. And in terms of how the fight would actually go, I think it would basically be Law versus a weaker version of Kaido. She fights the exact same way with some differences like ice instead of fire, but in the end, Yamato would definitely take the W in my opinion. So if you enjoyed today's video, drop a comment down below and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.